and welcome to Reading with Mrs. Hodges. We are going to be using some work that we did yesterday to help us with our work today, so make sure that you know how to find that. Let's go over our objectives for today's lesson. We're going to be comparing and contrasting the text structure and the text features and things that we noticed that were happening between the two texts that we've been reading the past couple of weeks. So let's go ahead and get right into it, right? All right, so I'm going to show you my desktop so I can show you around and remind you how to get to our book if you don't have the actual hard copy today. So I'm going into Clever and going into Benchmark. I'm going to choose Grade 5. We are in Unit 7. Good morning, everybody. And I'm going to go down to our ebook. And we only read 2 of our sources from this text. So we're only going to be looking at those 2 texts. So the first one was Yankee Doodle Boy, and that's what we worked on yesterday, going over what we noticed. And so the things that we noticed included that it was written on journal paper. There was an intro written in italics that gave us some background information to start off, which was an excerpt from a larger piece. It was written as a narrative, so we also saw pronouns like I and we. It was written in chronological order, meaning it went in order with the events, and there was an illustration or a painting towards the end of that text with the caption that described that illustration painting, and the paragraphs were also numbered, so that was something else to notice. Hi guys, I miss you guys too so much. I'm glad it was easy for those who felt it was easy. I went ahead and added in my notes for Road to Revolution, which was the other text. Looks like this. So hopefully you have something similar, maybe a couple of differences, but some things I noticed that this text had was that it was informational. It was all written in informational. I didn't see any I's or we's. It was very factual based. I could probably even add that it was factual based. The other one was too, but it was more of a personal account. So I'm going to write factual based. There were headings, so like a heading, for example, like anger builds. Sorry. And on the other pages, we saw some more headings too. Declaring independence was there also, and can't see that one. What does that one say? To fight or not, right? Okay. There was a timeline. I love timelines. There was a timeline at the bottom, and in that timeline, not only did we find out a date and some details, but we also had some graphics. And so there was some. It looked like there was like a map. No. Like some kind of drawing there. This looks like some kind of symbol, and then there's a picture, and so it was kind of nice to have that visual effect in the timeline. And then also this text was also written in chronological order. It's written in order with the events that happened, so it was like a logical, here's what led to this, right? And so that kind of makes me think too that it was written in chronological order, but I also saw, which I'm going to add to my notes over there, that it seemed to have some cause and effect. So maybe that's something that you wrote in your chart too, is that there was this happened, so then this happened. This happened, and then this happened. They set up the taxes, or they were taxing the colonists. That affected them, and so that made them do this. So I'm going to add that not only did I notice it was in order chronologically, also because of the timeline, but I also noticed that it was written in kind of like a cause and effect. All right, so those are just me noticing what I had on both texts. Hopefully you had something similar. I had noticed some people copied my first side of the chart, and then I had you guys do it on your own for the second side of the chart. You can copy it now if you'd like. This is going to be what we use for today's lesson, which is the comparing and contrasting. So those 2 are just what we did yesterday, so I'm just reviewing that. Good morning, Jillian. Good to see you here too. So now let's get into some ideas of how we're going to compare and contrast. If I say that we are going to compare them and contrast them, there's different frames that I could use to help me with that. All right, so I'm going to open with starting off like a topic sentence or a main idea. And so there's some options there. The similarities between blank and blank indicate blank, or it tells us blank. So it's kind of like a way to develop a main idea about what your paragraph will be about, because you're going to be writing a paragraph today. By comparing Yankee Doodle Boy and Road to Resolution, or Road to Revolution, it becomes clear that and you can draw a conclusion and decide what to put there. A comparison of Yankee Doodle Boy to Road to Revolution reveals, right? So you can have a choice on how you're going to start off your paragraph. You can also use a different way that you might have a favorite way of saying that as well, too. I'm open to that. Then the middle sentences, to compare or to contrast. So it's going to depend on what you're going to be saying. You might be doing both, where you're comparing the two and saying what's similar between them. So they are both written in chronological order. So that's something I can use in that area. So I can say, although blank and blank are blank, blank is blank. So although Yankee Doodle Boy and Road to Revolution are about the Revolutionary War, Yankee Doodle Boy is written in, and this would be contrasting, so just to say how they're different, is written in as a journal entry, whereas Road to Revolution is written as an informational piece. So that's how I can say how they're different. Or I can also say the most obvious difference between Yankee Doodle Boy and Road to Revolution is how they are, one is written as a narrative and one is written as informational. To say how they're the same, I might say both. I like to say both in my sentences, but I can say both Yankee Doodle Boy and Road to Revolution, the authors explain, or you can say in both Yankee Doodle Boy and Road to Revolution, we learn about, or that they are both, some things that we notice in our chart, they both have numbered paragraphs, they both have illustrations, right, or some kind of graphics. They both are written in chronological order. Those are the ways that they are the same. And then how they're different, how they contrast. I'm noticing in our chart, some things that are different is that one is informational based, one is written from a perspective at the actual war, and one has more cause and effect, where the other one doesn't. The other one is just really just the chronological order with the events. One includes quotations from a letter or a speech, while the other one is the first-hand account. So there's different things that you're going to be able to say, and here's some sentence frames you can use to help you. Okay, to support your ideas, you can use that as well to give us more information. One similarity difference is blank. The common characteristics include, and then closing with your concluding statement or sentence by comparing blank to blank. We learned that, so it's like kind of like solidifying what your thoughts were. You still have time. I see some notes that some people are saying that they weren't able to finish it. That's okay. You still have time. Okay. All right. So here's another thing I wanted to mention. Some of us are ready for multiple paragraphs. Some of us would rather just do a paragraph. I'm going to leave this up to you. I'm going to start a paragraph so we at least have something to start with, but you have an option to make one solid paragraph with a topic sentence, something you're comparing, something you're contrasting, and a concluding sentence. So that would be about 4, maybe 5 sentences, maybe even 6, to challenge you even more if you're ready for it. Each one of those sentences technically could be a paragraph if you're writing an essay. So it's going to be up to you if you'd rather write an essay or write a paragraph. I know some of you guys are ready for that and can handle that, so I'm going to say go for it. You know how to do it. You can make a plan first if you'd like, or you can just start typing right away. So that first topic sentence is going to be that main idea. What are you going to be talking about in this paragraph or in this paper? You can use the sentence frames in the opening. You can have another way, but basically you're not comparing and contrasting yet. You're just kind of saying what both of them are doing or what the purpose of reading these texts were. And then a comparing sentence or comparative sentence. How are they the same? Just something. Pull something from your chart that shares how they're the same. And then contrasting. How are they different? What's something that makes them different? And then closing. So I'm going to just model for you if you're going to write a paragraph. We're going to use the same document, the same chart, and just go down and just choose a space to work on. For you, you don't have all of that on your screen. You just have the chart up above, so it's probably going to be right below where your chart is, but I'm going to the next page because I have all this extra stuff on there. All right, so I'm going to start with my paragraph with an indentation. So I'm hitting tab once to scoot it over. And I'm going to have a topic sentence. So I'm going to sound fancy. I'm going to use the comparison one. A comparison of, and I'm going to cite my sources, Yankee Doodle Boy, and what was the other one called again? Road to Revolution. Road to Revolution. Oh, I've lost the sentence frame. Reveals that the Revolutionary War had many challenges. I'm going to just start off with that because both of them talk about challenges. All right, so now I'm going to get into my comparing sentence, which means I'm going to look at my chart and figure out what is the same between them two. What's like something that's worth noting. I could say that one uses I and we, while the other one doesn't, but I feel like I would rather say something a bit more meaty than that. I think I'm going to talk about how one is written as a narrative and the other one is informational. Yeah, that's what I'm going to mention. So I'm going to look at these sentences, although that sounds like a contrasting one. All three of those are contrasting. So I'm going to use one that's not listed there because I want to be able to compare it. And I don't really see one that it really works to compare it. You are, Gemma, to answer your question, you're either going to do a paragraph or you're going to do an essay. So it's going to be up to you. All right, so I've done my topic sentence. I'm working on my comparative sentence. How are they the same? Both, I think I just mentioned how they were different though. That's not what are they the same? They're both talking about the Revolutionary War. They both are in chronological order. That's better. There are number paragraphs. I could say that, but that's not as cool. So I'm going to talk about the chronological order. Okay. Both texts are written in chronological order, which means, so I'm going to add some of my own thoughts here too, which means they go in order of the events, that took place. All right, comparative, done. Contrasting, I'm going to go back up. That's what I kept thinking about was contrasting, is how are they different? Now, the one I wanted to work on was how are they different? One is written informational, one was more of a narrative, right? That feel. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, I think one of these sentences would work best. The most obvious difference between blank and blank is blank. I'm going to use that one. You can also use any of the other ones that are there or one that you might have that you would like to use. The most obvious difference between, I'm going to call it out again, Doodle Boy and Road to Revolution is that one is written as a narrative and we hear a soldier's perspective, while the other is written as an informational piece, providing, oh, I made a typo there, providing us with facts. Boom, fix that. All right. You do not have to make an IOREO. This is not an opinion, but if you want to make a plan, if you plan to make an essay, you would make a plan for the writing to make sure you have all the pieces. You don't have to write an essay though, but this is just in case, that would be just in case you want to make an essay versus just a paragraph. And do we have the slide that I'm working on? I'm actually working on the same document you had yesterday. It's in Google Classroom. This is new though, but I did give you a copy of this link in our assignment slides. So you have these sentence frames available. This is all this blue stuff is new right now in the video. Okay. I'll go over some more directions after I'm done. I'm almost done. I want to reread it to make sure it sounds and flows first. A comparison of Yankee Doodle Boy and Road to Revolution reveals that the Revolutionary War had many challenges. Both texts are written in chronological order, which means they go in order of the events that took place. The most obvious difference between Yankee Doodle Boy and not Roach, Road to Revolution, is that one is written as a narrative and we hear a soldier's perspective, while the other is written as an informational piece providing us with facts. Now, concluding statement. By comparing blank to blank, we learn blank. The difference between blank and blank are important because, I like that one. Those are both really good. I think I'm going to go with the top one. Maybe I can mix them. Let's see. By comparing these two texts, I'm going to go with that. We learn that as with any war, I'm trying to decide challenges as a soldier can. I don't like that either. This is what happens in real life, right? We edit, we change, we revise. Do you guys have ideas for me? Let me check my comments. By comparing these two texts, we learn that I don't even know if I like that. We learn that. This is the concluding statement. I'm trying to like solidify everything I just said. We learn that being a part of a war can be quite the challenge. Is that what I already said? I think my introduction started that way too. Similar. Had many challenges, and I'm ending with it was quite the challenge. I can also say that it can be deadly. It could be that there's many disagreements because that was a lot of what the second text talked about. The colonists were not very excited and very happy with the king giving them all of these taxes and things. That second few pages, I'm going to turn this page real quick. Those second pages talked about George Washington, how he said he didn't want to. I think it was George Washington in that text. Let me see. Yep. He didn't want to fight, but if they have to, then they have to. But they were trying not to be violent about it. Okay. So that's an example. I wouldn't recommend copying me exactly, but at least you would have an idea of what I'm looking for. Topic sentence, comparing and contrasting sentences, and a conclusion. If you're going to do this as an essay, each one of those sentences would basically be your first topic sentence for that paragraph, and then you just tell me more details in the rest. And I really do think that some of you are ready for that kind of a challenge. All right, let me switch to, let me look at questions really quick. All right, so I'm seeing I can't. You're not going to type onto, so in our slides that I gave you, you have a click to type, you have a click that you can do to get you to this. This is a sample. You're not going to type right onto that. What you're going to type on is this document, the paper. So if you imagine, I'm going to move that for a second. This is what you're going to see in Google Classroom because you made this yesterday. Then you're just going to click under that and make sure you indent for your first sentence and you start typing. But you can click back and forth to looking at this to see the sentence frame. and then your version of where you're going to type it. This is what you're going to see. It is just an image. The real one is here on your version that you type on. You do this today. Yesterday, you made the chart. Today, you're writing the paragraph. We good? Okay. All right. So I hope this was helpful. I'm sorry for a little confusion in the middle. This is typical of what happens, right? I'm trying to make sure you hear my thinking too. That's why I make mistakes, because I think in real life that's what happens, right? We make our mistakes, we edit, revise. And I think that you guys see that, I think is important too, because even as adults, we edit, revise, we change things. I had written out my whole paragraph already, but I wanted to do this in person, or not in person, but live for you so that you can see what struggles and what a good writer actually does. Not saying I'm a good writer. It's not my best subject, but I will say that it takes a lot of practice, and it does have a lot of deep thinking that you need to do. And sometimes the initial thing that you're thinking isn't really what you want by the end of it. Okay? So hopefully this is helpful and you have some resources available to you. You can use other sentence frames too. You're not locked into only using those, so it's up to you. All right. Have a great rest of your day. Tomorrow, our Zoom call I'm pretty excited about, because we're going to have another breakout room, a breakout session. And so we're going to have small group discussions, and we'll be going over math and reading and lots of stuff. So thank you for joining in and tuning in with me today. If you have any other questions, I'll be available on Flipgrid. Bye, guys.